What's going on, everyone? I'm just a typical, average American here today to react and learn about 10 things that Americans get totally wrong about Norway. So, here in the United States, we don't know much about other countries, really. And we don't really learn about them in school, and we aren't exposed to other cultures in our like daily life. And so we we really rely on a lot of stereotypes and like random stuff that we've heard about other countries to try to understand, which is not good. So today, I really want to learn about these 10 things that Americans do not understand correctly about Norway. So let's take a look. Starting with myth number one: Norway is always freezing and dark. Okay, so that's 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 a good one because honestly, I thought this for a very long time. I think most Americans think any country that's like more north than us, like Canada and Greenland and like Norway is way up there, way north. Yeah, we think all of you guys are like very cold, like, but maybe we take it too far. Like the way we picture like Scandinavia and Norway is it's always snow, always dark and cold, and I guess that is the misconception we make. We take it too far. So it says the reality is Norway has a much milder climate than you'd expect. Yeah, really. Thanks to the warm waters of the Gulf Stream, coastal Norway stays significantly warmer than other regions at similar northern latitudes, such as Alaska and Greenland. Really? So there's actually a geographical reason why Norway, or at least part of Norway, stays warmer, even though it's north. It has to do with Norway's west coast, because Norway has like a giant west coast, and like the warm water, the Gulf Stream, actually does stuff. Wow. So if you're a Norwegian, you might actually consider living like to the west by the coast because it might actually make it like more tolerable, warmer. I had no idea that was even a thing. In summertime, southern cities like Oslo and Bergen regularly reach warm temperatures around 20 Celsius. I don't. What is Celsius? I don't know what that even means. 68 Fahrenheit to 80 Fahrenheit. That's very pleasant. That's like perfect. Wait a minute. That's in the summer? So southern Norway, talking about like Oslo and more south than that, Bergen. You guys get like the perfect temperature in the summer. Cuz in a lot of parts of the US, like it's warm, which is great, but it can get too warm, like disgustingly warm. You can actually be too hot where you don't even want to go outside. Even though it's not cold, you should want to go out, but it's too hot, which is crazy. So it sounds like parts of Norway actually like have the perfect summer temperature. 80, 70, 80. That's great. They're going to be 19 hours of daylight. The midnight sun, right. Huh. So Norway does get cold weather. Right. Like that is a thing. It's just not as bad as we Americans think. And Norway actually gets some perfect weather at certain times of year. Like right now, it's probably really good. Maybe like better than parts of the US. Okay. Myth number 2. Vikings wore horned helmets. That's a myth? What? What do you mean? What do you mean that's a myth? What? You're telling me like Norwegian Vikings did not have horned helmets? Like that picture. Why is that the picture? That's the best example they could come up with? That is clearly a guy in a costume. But anyway, the point still remains. Like, when Americans think of Norwegians, a lot of us think of like Vikings, like scary big Norwegian Vikings. And a big part of that image is the iconic helmet, the horned helmet. You can't tell me that that's made up. Do what? I saw like a picture of like Holland, the football player wearing a horned Viking helmet. Do, do Norwegians know that this isn't true? Are we just all living a lie? What? How is this a myth? This is what? It says 19th century opera invention? No, don't tell me this. Don't ruin this for me. There is zero archaeological evidence that real Viking warriors wore horned helmets into battle. No! No way. This is like the biggest misconception of all time, then. What? Horns would have been impractical and dangerous in combat as enemies could easily grab them. Yeah, I mean, yeah, okay. Like, if you think about it, it's not very practical to have a giant horned helmet. It'd probably be heavy and strange, and that's not the point. It looks awesome. Norwegian Vikings are awesome for this. Is this just from like movies, or it says it's from an opera? What? Traders and farmers, the iconic horned helmet myth was popularized in the 1870s by a costume designer, Carl Emil Dupler, for Richard Wagner's famous opera Der Ring des Nibelungen. So this comes from an opera? That is anything going to top this? This is shocking to me. I can't believe this is the truth. Every American thinks Vikings had this horned helmet, like that this is a fact. This is something we idolize about Norway, and it's not true. You got to be kidding me. Okay. Wow. Myth number 3. Norway is a socialist utopia. Right. So there's a lot of Americans who think that well, a lot of European countries, including Norway, are socialist. Like, you just take all the money and combine it and split it up perfectly equal, so everyone is perfectly equal, and it's very bad and very socialist, and that's a scary word in the United States, and we don't want to end up like that, and everybody gets the same pay, so nobody is motivated to work harder. um and yeah, a lot of Americans think that Norway is this socialist utopia. Makes it sound like great, but I think a lot of Americans have a negative sentiment about that. Now, what's the truth? The Nordic model is a free market capitalism. What do you know? Something that Americans love. Norway is not a socialist economy. It operates a highly competitive, dynamic market economy paired with the strong labor laws, robust social welfare. Right. So you guys have this social welfare where you take care of people who need it, and you have strong labor laws, and that sounds great. That shouldn't be something that Americans are afraid of. We should be like I learned in Norway, don't you like you get off when you have a baby. Like you get time off, like months and months and like a year or something crazy. Like so yeah, this is a I know a little bit about this. This is a good one because a lot of Americans don't understand. Norway is like uh, it's got like sounds like the best parts of capitalism and free market while also having some of the best aspects of socialism with labor laws and welfare, and it sounds like a good combination actually. Private property rights are protected, entrepreneurship is encouraged, corporate tax structures foster global trade. Yeah, sounds great. Yeah. Americans like don't realize we could actually learn a lot from Norway in regards to this kind of stuff. Myth number 4. Every Norwegian is rich. Norway is known for being rich. So we just assume everybody's rich. I don't. And everything is expensive, right? How do you afford anything if you're not rich? Um, I'm guessing that's an overgeneralization. Equal wages, high minimum standards, compress pay gaps. So Norway has a minimum wage that is pretty high. Senior executives earn less relative to entry level workers. Oh, wow. Huh. So it's not that every Norwegian is rich, but there is a lot of policies in Norway which promote more equal pay, like at least less outrageous pay. Like the very richest person is not so like 1,000 times richer than the poorest person. Or like in the US, the top 1% of people in the US have like 99% of America's wealth. Like it's insane. Um, High cost and taxes, substantial income tax in Norway, high living expensive mean disposable income is modest, and extravagant displays of wealth are discouraged. Norway's unofficial comfort dish is the Grandiosa pizza. So basically, we have blown this out of proportion. There are wealthy Norwegians, but it's not that every Norwegian is rich. It's that Norway has a lot of things in place to help all Norwegians succeed to a certain extent, which sounds great. It's again, it's something like America is very scared of. Myth 5. Polar bears freely roam the streets. I've never thought that polar bears actually walk around like freely in the streets of Oslo or but there are some Americans who do think that. Yeah. We think that about Canada. And so Norway sort of, yeah, similarly. Anywhere that's cold, we're like, aren't there polar bears? This is only in Svalbard, the island north of Norway. A common joke among locals is how often tourists ask if polar bears walk through the city streets of Oslo. Do do tourists actually ask this? I would be too embarrassed. Like I think it's a stupid question. Like of course there's not bears in the streets. Obviously Norway would do something about that if that was the case, right? In reality, zero polar bears live in mainland Norway. They inhabit distant Arctic archipelago of Svalbard. Right. So there's not even polar bears on in the mainland Norway to begin with. So this is impossible. Myth number 6. Norwegians are cold and antisocial. This is something that Americans kind of just think about Europeans and Nordics too. It's just a generalization because in the United States, we try to be so open and we try to be so friendly that anything less we think is like antisocial. Like, oh, you're not talking to a random person on the street. You're not saying hello. You're not holding the door open. That's cold and antisocial. So I think it's really a projection of American culture. Like, we think everyone needs to be like us, or you're weird and cold, which I don't think is fair. Norwegians value respecting your personal space. I like that. Outdoor life opens genuine warmth, conversations, bonding. So Norwegians kind of has to be outdoor, like in a certain outdoor situation to open up. I've also heard that you have to be drunk. Kusling, deep, meaningful friendships centered on hospitality. So Norwegians are friendly, but you have to be like good friends. In the United States, we're nice to a lot of people. I guess you could say our friendships are more surface level. Like, people will say they're friends even though they've met each other once. It's not genuine. So, I think we're just like holding Norwegians to an unfair standard. And you guys are kind of being just more genuine about it. So, I get that. Myth number 7. Northern lights are everywhere. Ha! I know there's northern lights when you're in a northern country. I wouldn't have thought they're everywhere. I know there are Americans who think if you go to Norway, you will see the northern lights, like no matter where you go. The reality is, in Tromsø or very north Norway, you have 95% visibility at. Wow, so you will see the northern lights, but you have to be in northern Norway. Not all of Norway will allows this. I see. Trondheim, like 45% of the time, you can see it. Bergen, 20% or less. Oslo or south. Like, a lot of Americans probably go to Oslo if they're visiting Norway, the capital. You have basically no chance of seeing the Northern Lights. And that's a big misconception. Yeah. I think a lot of Americans are disappointed by that, but it's really just like our responsibility to look. You should look that up before you travel all the way to another country. Like that's on you. You need to know that if you're visiting. The aurora borealis is seen above the Arctic Circle during winter. Living in Oslo does not guarantee seeing the lights. Yeah. Hmm. Myth number 8. It's just remote rural fjords. I mean, I've heard Norway has lots of fjords. Isn't that true? A global, modern, and high tech leader. While Norway preserves its stunning nature, its cities boast cutting edge Scandinavian architecture, cashless societies, electric vehicle adoption. 80% of new passenger cars in Norway are electric. Oh, this is saying that a lot of Americans don't understand how advanced Norway is. Yeah, because a lot of Americans think Norway is like, we think of Vikings, which are primitive. We think of nature or fjords, which, like a boat, which again is kind of primitive. The truth is, Norway has like all of this I know there's a lot of electric vehicle adoption. I've heard that. Um, and you have like cool modern architecture and a lot of technology, right? Yeah, it's strange because Norway is more modern than the United States by the sound of it. So it's funny that Americans don't even know that. Yeah, that's like backwards. Myth 9. Food is bland and fermented. I don't think most Americans even know what Norwegian food is like. Most Americans probably just think Norway has a lot of fish. Bland? I've never assumed that it was bland. Or yeah, most Americans just don't know about Norway's food. We don't think it's good or bad. We just don't know. Michelin starred dining in Oslo, wild berries, reindeer. There's some of the best artisanal cheese. World class coffee. Really? Americans would love that. Like some of the best coffee? Yeah. I'd say Americans don't disparage Norwegian food. We don't really have any opinion on Norwegian food. Myth number 10. Norway is too expensive to travel. I've heard that it's very expensive. Norway is known for being rich. A lot of Americans would assume Norway is expensive. Isn't it expensive? Thanks to Allemansretten, the right to roam, anyone can camp for free. Ha! Okay, that might be true, but you're not going to find any American who's going to camp. We don't camp. So this doesn't apply to us. Maybe that's free, but Americans are going to get a hotel. Sorry. Smart travelers utilize public transport. Oh, God. Okay. Um, so there are ways to do things cheaply in Norway. You could camp, you could enjoy the nature, which is free. You could take public transport, which is cheap. Americans just don't do that stuff. We don't understand that stuff. We're not interested in that. So, there are ways to make Norway more affordable. It's just that most Americans would never do that. And that's our problem, honestly. That's our problem. So, that's fair. So, yeah, this was fascinating. There's a lot of things a lot of misconceptions, a lot of stuff that Americans have heard about Norway or we assume about Norway that's really exaggerated or just not true. So, this was great for me to like clear up a lot of this stuff that I assumed a lot of this. So, I enjoyed this. Anyway, if you enjoyed this, feel free to give this video a like or leave a comment with your thoughts, especially if you're Norwegian and you understand this stuff, these myths, or you want to clarify anything. That'd be cool to hear about. And if you're interested in more videos like this, feel free to subscribe for more. And until then, thanks for watching and see you next time.